There are three main election systems in Britain at the moment being thought about, being introduced for the whole of Britain. There's first past the post, which is what we've already got. There is proportional representation, which is something that isn't used very much in the world, and there's the alternative vote. Three systems have many advantages and disadvantages of them. The main advantages of first past the post is that it produces a stable government, and that it maintains a link between the constituents and their MP, because their MP is elected from their constituency and for those people there. The main disadvantage is it's not fair. The Liberal Democrats at the last general election won, I think it was over a quarter, or if not nearly a quarter of the vote, and get something like a sixth of the seats. It's very disproportionate, and the Conservatives, that get 36% of the vote, form a government, even though the overwhelming majority of people didn't vote for them. It was even worse for the 2005 election. Tony Blair only got 35% of the vote and still won quite a large majority in Parliament. So it's not fair. That is the main argument against first past the post. Proportional representation, the main advantages for it is what you see is what you get. Who you vote for will eventually go towards being elected. You won't waste any votes, as would be the case under first past the post, where if you, for example, wanted to vote for a Respect or Green or BNP party candidate, chances that they're not going to be elected. They're going to be at the very bottom of the results. The main disadvantage of proportional representation is it will always produce a hung parliament, not since, with the exception of the national government, not since Lord Salisbury has a party won an overall majority of more than 50% of the votes. So the main argument against proportional representation is it would make the country ungovernable. And then there's the alternative vote, which is you rank the candidates you want in the order you want them. For example, if you wanted to vote for a Liberal Democrat first, you would put a 1 next to the Liberal Democrat candidate. Then if you thought, well, actually I quite like what the Greens are doing as well, you put a 2 next to them. On the other hand, I also quite like what the Respect Party is doing, so you put a 3 next to them, and then so on and so on. For as many of the candidates as you want, you can go right from 1 to 10 or so if you wanted to, into the alternative vote. And the main arguments against that is that, one, it would produce more hung parliaments, which it's true it would, but not as hung as in a proportional representation one. The other argument against it is it would let in minority parties or extreme parties. Well, there's 2 arguments against that. One is you wouldn't get BNP MPs unless lots of people voted for them, which lots of people don't vote for them, unless the majority of people preferred the BNP candidate over a Labour or Conservative candidate, but the chances are they're not. I think most people would put the BNP at the very bottom of their list, so very unlikely you get extremists like that. And number 2, well, surely the point of democracy is that all voices are heard, even those that are ridiculous. If people have those views, surely they should be in Parliament and better not be on the outside, where they're even more dangerous. These are the 3 main election systems that are the 3 most well known, although there are other systems as well, for example the ones they use in Scotland and Germany, but they are the 3 main systems. And the main thing that people would argue against changing the system is that we had a referendum and we'd lost it by an overwhelming majority, or won it depending on your view, but it was a very biased referendum and it had a very low turnout, so I think it would be a good idea to hold another referendum on that in the future. If you're going to hold lots of referendums in Scotland and on Europe, then why not hold a referendum on the voting system?